Hey there for Dragonfly and me friends. Welcome to another episode of Jean in the Kitchen. Well, it is comfort food season and I am making beef stroganoff today. If this is your first time here, welcome. Again, I'm Jean Roman. You're at fordragonfliesandme.com here at YouTube or my blog. You may be watching this. So I have a lot of comfort food recipes that my family loves, and this is definitely by far one of my favorite, as well as my kids and my husband, Dave. This was something my grandma used to make and my mom used to make, and so there's lots of fond memories with it. But if you own a copy of my cookbook, my Lovingly Seasoned Eats and Treats, right there, you can find this recipe in the skillet section on page 122. So I actually wrote this, if many of you know, while I was during my Mennonite days several years ago. But since then, I have, like many of my recipes, altered it a little bit. So I'm going to update the recipe at my blog. So when this video is over, I'm going to direct you over there at www.fordragonfliesandme.com so that you can get the updated recipe. Or if you don't own a copy of my cookbook, you can definitely purchase one there, either in the spiral bound soft cover version or even in a downloadable PDF. But before I get going, I would love for you to please smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, trying to grow my following base here. YouTube doesn't really show it to people until you get to 1,000 followers. So I'm still a newbie here, I guess, and trying to put out really good content for all of you guys. So anyways, into the video now. So what I'm going to do is I have already cut some of my round steak or a sirloin steak. I actually am using sirloin today. In my cookbook, I do suggest using the round steak, which is just as good. Round steak is usually what you get when you purchase your already pre-cut stew meat or fajita meat. I'm going to actually cut that, but I also like to use sirloin steak. So this was actually some stew meat that I already had, and I didn't feel like it was enough. My recipe calls for about 1.5 pounds. I'm actually doing about 2 pounds. So I've adjusted the recipe, and just like anything else, adjusting is really easy. I'm feeding 4, so I wanted a little bit more meat. My boys are meat eaters, and you've seen pictures of them, so you know. But if you follow me on my social media, that is. So while I'm cutting the sirloin steak, I'm actually going to take my electric skillet and turn that on to a 350 degree. I'm going to spray it with some olive oil spray, just so it doesn't stick. I have a couple. I've used this for a long time. I'm going to let that heat up a little bit. Then I'm going to add my butter and my oil. And in the meantime, I'm making this look a lot harder than it actually is. This knife, I actually love this knife. It does need to be sharpened. Now I'm going to trim off a little bit of grizzle for you. So once I get this steak cut into about 1-inch chunks, so about like this big, that's about what you want right there, I'm going to put the oil and some butter in the frying pan, let that melt. And then what I'm going to do is going to take my flour, my salt and pepper, and I'm going to put that in this bowl right here where I'm going to coat the meat with that. So I'm going to leave this. I think I have enough. Put that on this plate here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that butter in here. Let that start melting. Add the oil. And I'm using olive oil. You don't have to use olive oil on this. You can use some canola or safflower or whatever you like. So I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper in there. Put this to the side. Mix that up, and then I'm going to put the meat in there. Going to move this so you can see a little bit better. So in my frying pan, I'm letting that all melt. You know what I always say about bacon and butter, right? If you follow me, I'm going to see who does. What do I always say about bacon and butter? Put it in the comments, friends. If you follow me for any amount of time, you know I love your comments. I love when you guys tell me what variations you do. Do you make a beef stroganoff? I actually make a hamburger stroganoff too. which I have in my cookbook also. And I believe that's on the very next page, Hamburger Stroganoff by another lady in the church that wrote that. If you want a little bit of information about my cookbook, I wrote my cookbook during my time at the Mennonites, with the Mennonites. I was a Mennonite for about 15 years. And that is honestly where I learned to garden. Absolutely where I learned to can, which is kind of odd because my grandmother and my mom canned all the time. And putting that in there, I'm trying to keep it a single layer. That, and then add this last little bit. Once I get all this coated, I am going to save my flour and salt and pepper mixture. You can add a little bit of garlic salt if you want, maybe like a 1/4 teaspoon if you want to add that, but there is garlic in this recipe. Okay, so I'm gonna wash my hands, get all that sticky, gooey flour residue off. If you saw my video yesterday, I was out in the garden, and if you follow me, you know that's absolutely my happy place. So I utilized some old, well, not old, but of my 1 gallon recyclable water bottles, which I used earlier in the spring as my transplants for my tomato plants. So if you're a gardener and you're here watching, be sure to peruse my page here as well as my blog. I have tons and tons of great gardening content and lots of great information, friends. It's definitely my happy place and what I love to do. I spent gardening. I spent 15 years farming while I was with the Mennonites during that time when I wrote this cookbook. Okay, so I've kind of coated all of that, all the meat with the butter. And so it's already kind of getting a little bit pasty in there. And so I'm going to show you guys real quick, if you guys can see that. I'll get a close up a little bit once I get it going. So what I want to do is I want to let this cook for about probably 5 to 10 minutes until it's about probably 3/4 way cooked, or I'm not, sorry, about halfway cooked. And I'm going to stir that up. I can cover it to make it cook a little faster. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to once I get this done, I'm going to add my onions, my garlic. The other variation that I've done to this is I've now started adding a can of cream of mushroom soup. And I really like that. In my recipe, it also calls for canned mushrooms. Today, I'm using fresh mushrooms. You can use either one. I had these fresh mushrooms that needed to get used up. So that was another reason. If you are following me for any amount of time, are you going to see Frank in the background? I also do a monthly menu, and this really helps with organization in the home and the kitchen because I am shopping for what is on the menu. And today is beef stroganoff. Tomorrow is tacos or taco salad. I'm gonna let my boys choose. So either way, it helps with grocery shopping. And if you follow me, be sure in January, I do a whole organizational series and kind of help you get your home organized after the holidays. And this month at my blog, I'm also going to be doing a blog about how to organize all of your holiday decor. And you can't really see right now, but if you follow me on social media, you have seen my home, and I pretty much turned the main floor into basically a winter wonderland. So, okay, so I am pleased with how far this meat is cooking because as I add the rest of the ingredients, this is going to simmer for about an hour. 2 hours, depending on how long you want to cook it down. As the longer you cook it, obviously the meat is going to be more tender. So in this pan, I've already got this going. So you want to use a large electric skillet. You could probably do this in a crock pot if you brown your meat first too. I've never done it, but have you ever done beef stroganoff in a crock pot? If so, I'd love to hear about it. So now I am going to add in my onions. And I have used red onion. I do not cook with white onion, literally ever. There's my garlic minced. I only use red onion or yellow onions. And there's my mushrooms. So that's about an equivalent because fresh mushrooms, if you have ever cooked with them, you know they shrink. So then I'm also going to add the remaining flour into here because what this flour is going to do is actually going to make the gravy of the beef stroganoff. If I don't feel that I have enough broth at the end of this, I can always add in more. This recipe is going to call for 4 cups of broth, and that broth is going to react with the flour. And I'm coating everything really well now with that remaining flour, and it is a little pasty, which is what I want because that is going to make the gravy here. So there we go. And then, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in my gravy, or I'm sorry, my soup. And my broth. I put this out there. The sour cream is going to be the very last thing that I add in because I found sometimes that it'll curdle, and I don't know if that was something I did wrong or whatnot, but this is a 48-ounce container of beef broth. And as you can hear, the sizzling stopped. And I'm going to bring this to a boil, and then I'm going to simmer it for about an hour to 2, depending on how long I want to cook it for the meat to be tender. So pretty much once I feel that the meat is tender enough, or by 4 o'clock when we want to eat dinner. So it is that simple. I'm going to keep my sour cream to the side. Once this is about just about ready to eat, I am going to start boiling my noodles. And I know some people throw their noodles right into the beef stroganoff. My boys don't like it, neither do I, because I feel like the noodles get soggy. And so what I'll do is I'll actually boil my noodles, toss them with a little garlic infused olive oil so they don't stick. And then I'll put my noodles in the dish or a plate, whatever, bowl. And then I cover it with my beef stroganoff mixture of beef and mushrooms and onions. So friends, I am going to say farewell now. Usually what I do here at my YouTube channel, especially if you're a first-time person here, when I'm doing my cooking, is I prepare everything in front of you and then I show you the finished product at my blog. So this way you kind of can get a feel of both platforms. But one thing I always do say, and I will continue to say, is thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to smash the like button and the subscribe button and leave me a comment. I love those comments as well. And then be sure to head on over to my blog at www.fordragonfliesandme.com to see the completed version of this recipe. Thanks so much, friends, and we'll talk to you soon.